Hello, welcome to another Avid Visions video. Today we're going to be talking about macro again. Some people may want to go into macro, but not want to spend all the money that is involved in getting a macro set up like this with the typical extension tubes dedicated macro lens format. So, today I'm here to show you a more economically friendly method of reverse lensing. This is all the gear you'll need for reverse lensing, and I can assure you it's much cheaper than the conventional setup. Now, I'm going to go over the gear. The key component of any reverse lens kit is the reverse lens ring that you see right here. The reverse lens ring allows you to take any lens that has the correct filter thread, screw it on backwards, right, like this, and then you mount it on your camera backwards. Now the benefit of this is that the way that the glass is now refracting, you can focus in much closer than you normally would with the lens. And this is really easy and really cheap. This ring was about $10 on Amazon, so I really mean cheap when I say cheap. Now, there are of course inherent dangers with having the rear element of your lens exposed, and that's why you'll notice I'm using the lens from the 80s, the old Nikon E-Series 50mm. And this is another cost-cutting benefit. These old lenses are very cheap, and that means that you won't spend a lot of money. Now, some details about the reverse lensing. The lens, you have to think, when a normal lens you have a small sensor, so a small piece of area is reading light for a large piece of area, right? And lenses channel light into that small area. So the wider the lens is, the more light is going into one small area. So when you turn that around, you have a small area right here with a lot of light going out. So you have to think that it's focusing all the light on a very small point right in front of it. So this means that the wider angle lens you have, the more magnified you're going to get. So with this 50mm lens I have, using only this and the reverse ring, I'm going to get pretty close to 1:1. Using this 28mm lens in the reverse ring, however, we're going to get probably about 1.5:1, if not a little more. Now, the great thing is you can couple this up with other extension tubes. And another cost-cutting benefit, because you're reversing the lens anyway, you're not going to have any electrical connections. So you don't need to worry about buying an expensive set of tubes like the Kenkos. The $10 photodiox tubes are perfectly adequate in this situation. So what I'm saying right now is you get this $10 ring, $10 extension tubes, and say an old 28mm or an old 50mm lens off of eBay for another $20. We're talking you can get a 2:1 macro setup, if not even more, for about $40 if you are really looking for bargains. So that's sort of value that can't be matched, which is really great. The only things to look out for, or the only other expenses that I could see, is the reverse ring comes in a filter thread of 52mm standard, and that's all you get. So the only thing that I spent money on was a step-up threading ring, because my 28mm lens has a filter thread of 49mm. But because this lens is a wider angle, it would magnify more, so I invested $10 in a step-up set, which can be used at any time. There are some drawbacks, however, as I will demonstrate. Now I'm going to demonstrate how magnified different lenses can get. For a control lens, I'm using the Nikon kit lens, the 18 to 55mm f3.5 to 5.6. This is at 55mm, focused in as close as possible. So this is a point of reference, okay? Just to show you what we're looking at, zooming out here, we're looking at the D60 with the 50mm E-Series. Next up is the Nikon 60mm f2.8 dedicated macro lens. This is at 1:1 reproduction ratio. As you can see, zooming in a little bit more
quality is great, exactly what you'd expect out of a Nikkor lens, but you have to remember that this cost about $700. So this is another reference point. Now we're going to try some reverse lensing. Make a note of the quality though. This is the old 50mm lens reversed. So you'll see we're a bit less magnified than with the dedicated macro lens, but you have to remember this is without any extension tubes. This is just the 50mm lens. You also might notice a drop in sharpness. This is because using a reverse ring adds no other pieces of glass to the lens. So whatever your lens's original quality is, that's the quality of your new picture. And you have to remember this lens is about 30 years old now. So the glass has been through a lot and doesn't have the best quality or sharpness just because of its age. So keep that in mind when you're buying anything off of eBay. Always check that it's a high quality lens. Next up we have the 28mm lens reversed with no extension tubes. You can already see it's much more zoomed in than the 1:1 right off the bat with no extension tubes. This is about 2:1 I'd bet, and this is what you get with the dedicated macro lens and all of its extension tubes. So this is pretty impressive already. And you'll know the image quality is alright, but again, this is a 30-year-old lens almost, so you have to understand. The main thing to realize about this is that because it's a wider focal length, it's more zoomed in. I just have to reiterate that again and again. But you have to also think that the only way to change magnifications is to change focal lengths on your lens, or the amount that the lens is extended out from your camera. So this means changing lenses a lot, or changing into and out of extension tubes a lot, or you can be smart and buy macro bellows, the ones that can be adjusted while you're using them for different amounts of extension. I'd recommend the bellows, personally, but I don't own them yet. One thing to remember along those lines is that if you don't have a bellow system, you're working on a fixed magnification, and you have to work around how much you can fit into your frame. Just something to think about. It's sort of a disadvantage. Lighting is still an important factor with macro as always. Hopefully with the money you save using reverse lenses instead of a conventional setup, you will be able to buy a flash or something. One thing you might notice is that I can't find the subject right now. That's because it's tough, seeing as we are using the 28mm lens reversed on 68mm of extension tubes. This means that we are really zoomed in, probably about 3.5 to 1, maybe even a little more. It's really, really nice how close you can get with this. I've taken some good pictures with it already. But lighting obviously becomes an issue. That's always an issue, and it's something that you need to consider all the time. Look at that magnification. I'm always really impressed by this. Okay, so remember earlier how I was talking about no electronic connections? Yeah, that's because the lens is reversed. This means that you will have no electronic aperture connections either, and you'll need to use a manual aperture ring. Refer to the extension tubes video for more information about electric aperture control, because it impacts how well you can focus or what light you can see in your viewfinder because of the aperture ring. To conclude, reverse lensing is a powerful, cheap, easy, and fun, albeit risky, way to do macro photography. It makes it very widely available to everybody, and I'd recommend trying it just because it's a lot of fun with very low impact to your wallet, which is always great. The magnifications that I've been able to get with reverse lensing way surpass those that I've been able to get with my macro lens and extension tube setup, which is really, really exciting to me. However, there's also the distinct lack of sharpness because of the quality lenses that I've been using. And you also have to remember that macro lenses are made to be macro lenses. Their glass is specially coated to not show dust or scratches that would get on the lens over time. Because the closer that your depth of field gets to the elements of your lens, the more that all the imperfections of the lens show up. So you have to keep that in mind. The glass that you use is still the most important part of taking the picture, Reverse lensing is just a really nice technique to try out, so I highly recommend it. Thank you. This is Connor signing out for Avid Visions.